Is it true that more shared parenting brings to less parental alienation? Intuitively, I would say yes, but I cannot prove it. I don't have enough figures, statistics. There's not enough statistics about following up what happens with families after family court decisions. We don't really know. Data protection issues, so we are not allowed to have this information. People can give it to us, but it may be some couples, but not the huge amount of families that we need for such a statistic. But the main problem is there is no such thing as parental alienation syndrome, because there is no disorder called like this. If you have such a disorder, you can make statistics. You can say now how many depressive people are in Iceland. You can say that. You can find it anywhere. Or how many have a post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is this vicious circle. We have to break it. We need more information, we need more data, and we need to understand that this research is important. And then we can prove that it's damage for the child, and then we make investigation, we recognize it as a disorder, and then we start moving. We don't have the statistics, but the logical way. And then I put a chain. What is the chain that brings to parental alienation? And it is always a court decision as a consequence of a child being induced by one parent against the other parent. So you have a power position of parents, then this manipulating of the child against the other one. The court listens to the voice of the child and confuses words of the child with the will of the child, with the well-being of the child. You may say, okay, I don't want to see my mother anymore. That's the word of the child. But it is really the will of the child? Does she or he really mean it or not? And we can say, okay, she really means it because the influence process was very strong. But is it her well-being or not? So you make the difference, and then you will see, okay, you have to differentiate. Otherwise, you take the words as well-being, which is not allowed. Then, according to that, comes a judge and makes a court decision, contact suspension for 2 years, 3 years. And after that, normally, you will have some kind of disorder called parental alienation syndrome. So how can you stop, logically, this chain from being? And there are 3 points. First, the influence of the parents on the child. Second, the confusing the words with the will, with the well-being of the child. And third, to stop judges from taking that decision. And from the 3 conditions, the first is a necessary. Without this influence, you will have no parental alienation because you need the court order. It's necessary, but not sufficient. At that point, you can put shared parenting. Then you make the influence position by both parents equal, so it is more difficult for one parent to influence against the other. The second thing, this confusing words, will and well-being of the child. You have to make this difference as a judge. Then you can stop courts, family courts, from emitting that kind of order, suspension orders. There are only 2 ways. Either you convince judges not to do that and give them other tools to deal with those issues, or you can really think about one issue, which is, for me, basic. Are family courts the best institution to deal with family problems? And my answer is no, because they are lawyers, judges, they know a lot about law, and they can only decide about legal problems. Either you teach judges to deal with the core of a problem. The goal for me of a mediation is not to arrive to an agreement, but it's to get to the core of a problem. But once you get to the core, the real core, you arrive to that point, you see the problem disappears. Dear couple, I cannot help you. You go to mediation, and perhaps I see you in 1 year. But I think, so then you prevent also parental alienation, because they don't really, at the very beginning, they don't really want to alienate the child. They have a problem with each other. For me, as a mediator, there are 2 kinds of people. People I can reach and people I cannot reach. You would say the second group are the psychological people that really have psychological problems, a real narcissist. Only 2 cases, one father and one mother, that I said, I cannot help you. And a narcissist is just not a bad person. A narcissist is just, for me, a grown man, probably also a woman, that didn't receive enough love as a child. And you make a wall between you and the world. The outer world is you will see a beautiful wall. You say, oh, wow, he's a nice guy. But behind, you feel really miserable and small and black. And you would really have the intuition behind is just a masquerade. They will attack you because that's the only thing they cannot bear, that to see that they are weak. At that level, they will destroy you. So it's better you go off if you can. But if you have children with that person, it is very difficult. But they will not cry for help because normally they are intelligent and they know if some psychologists say, I'm not okay, I will lose my child, so I will not do that. Or I always have to give the impression I'm a perfect guy. And a perfect guy don't need a psychologist. You give love because that is really the answer. Can you imagine American soldiers coming from Vietnam and saying there is no such a thing as a post-traumatic stress disorder? No possibility to have any therapy, so you leave them. Okay, it doesn't exist. Or like Stockholm syndrome, then it's a way of protecting them, to protecting the real victims, and it's a way to promote research. We cannot investigate. We don't have an object victim, official victim of parental alienation. We have many, but not officially. So once you have a diagnosis on depression, you can get funding for research. You can start, okay, there's a hole, we want to investigate on that hole. For example, which are the motives of mothers or fathers that want to alienate? It is just money. I keep the child because I know I have more help from the state. Or it is just, you betrayed me. We don't really know, but you cannot make any research if you don't have an object. Everyone knows the term internationally, so that's probably the best term to use for that phenomenon. Divide et imperat. This was the tactic of many warriors. So you divide the people and then it is easier to dominate them. But it's just a profession like any other profession. You cannot say judges are good or bad, they are like any other professions. The question is, some of them are more motivated and want to learn more and change things. Like you have very good examples here. They should be here because they are, for me, the main addressee of this problem. If they change their minds, they will change the system. It's just a system, very human, we have to change. The later, the worse for some people, so let's do it as soon as possible. In Germany, there's the question of alimony is just a question of everything or nothing. It's not a little bit, either you receive it or not. So you have your child a bit more than 50%, you get alimony from the other, otherwise you don't get. So it's worth to keep your child, and then you get both. It's not a question of being man or woman, it's a question of power against the other parent over the heads of the children. I want to produce and give knowledge to the professionals. So I created a circle with professionals in my hometown, so people can exchange opinions. It is amazing because you don't believe it. They don't talk to each other. We listen, what was good, what was not good. If you buy a car and your car goes broken, after 5 minutes you will know they did a good job or not. But a judge never knows if he decides properly or not. No follow-up. So they can decide whatever they want. They will never know, and this is essential in order to make corrections. In order for shared parenting to be decided, the parents have to communicate properly. But they cannot communicate properly if they are at the Supreme Court or at any court. This is the proof they cannot communicate properly. So mediation is the answer. It's like love is the answer. Mediation is the answer. And if we get an agreement after mediation, you will never know how much you save in money, energy, and time. But if you don't believe me and you go to court, you will know, but you will never come back to mediation. No country is doing enough against parental alienation. And that's a pity, because it's unknown, it's invisible.